Ladies and gentlemen, give a Springfield, Massachusetts Hall of Fame welcome to Tracy McGrady. Take a seat.
Thank you, guys. Let's get it on. Let's get it on.
Tracy, welcome to Springfield.
It's a pleasure to be here. Although I got, a couple hours of sleep, got in late last night, but it's a pleasure.
Well, Springfield is the city that never mind. So let me ask you this. We're gonna talk and go through your entire career. But before we begin, I wanna talk about your style of play. You and I are the same vintage, and so your style of play, specifically around the rim, was so signature and so revolutionary. And so I want to talk to you specifically about one dunk that I saw a number of times. The off the backboard to yourself in a game dunk. Do you remember the first time you tried that and all of the risks associated with it?
Yeah. Well, the first time I tried it was in high school. It was my senior year, and we were playing this team, and they were playing a zone. They were playing a 2-3 zone. And I was getting frustrated because I was the point guard. So, these two guys are guarding me. So I kept passing the ball to the wings, and I would never really get the ball back unless I move around. And so I got frustrated. And I was saying to myself, how can I get through these two guys, right? So I just came up with something creative, and I said I was gonna bust through these guys, throw it off the backboard, and I didn't care what the middle guy was doing behind them. Mm-hmm. He was gonna get dunked on. So I split the two guys that were playing the 2-3 zone, threw it off the backboard, and that was the first time, and I perfected that dunk. I did it a couple more times in high school. So when I got drafted, I was telling myself, I want to do this on the highest level of basketball, right? So I'm playing with the Orlando Magic, and we're in preseason against Boston Celtics. And this was not planned before the game or anything like that. It was just instincts. I just had the confidence at an all-time, high level. So we're playing Boston Celtics. I see some Celtics fans right there. And I'm coming down the court, and Kenny Anderson,
yeah.
is behind. I throw it up, and he thinks I'm throwing an alley-oop to one of my guys. On the hole, I came out of nowhere and dunked it. And this was in preseason. That was the first time I did it.
You were throwing it to one of your guys, you.
Me, yeah. Yeah, it's two of me out there.
It looked it at all times. Now, on behalf of our friends at Hager Clothing, who have graciously provided all of our Hall of Famers with their Naismith orange jacket, which I don't want to look at the calendar too much, but you will have in 42 days. I want to ask our Hager Innovators question. In the late 90s, you were part of a trailblazing group of guys who, in a span of 3 years, you, Kevin Garnett, and Kobe Bryant all made that trailblazing decision to forego college and move directly to the NBA draft. I mean, those three names, Tracy McGrady, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, within 3 years. It's remarkable. Can you recall leading up to that draft, the way that the nerves, because 1997 is not 2017. The internet was not providing us with all the feedback. Were there any restless nights moving up to that draft after that decision?
Well, let me take you before the draft.
Please.
How I actually got to that point. I'm from Arbondale, Florida. It's a small town west of Orlando. It's a population of about 10,000 people. That's where I grew up. And I really wasn't known in my outside of Florida, right, as far as playing basketball. So this opportunity came to me to play on a national level for high school basketball. So the summer of 1996, I got invited to a Adidas camp in Teaneck, New Jersey. And I was the last person to be invited to this camp because nobody really heard of me, and it took some favors to get me into this camp. So my jersey number, I got the last jersey, and my jersey number was 175.
Oof.
Right? 175. Oof. That was my ranking. All the guys that were at this camp. Oh. So I didn't have any pressure. Nobody knows who I am. I'm just gonna come in here and I'm gonna make a name for myself. So I get there, and the first name I keep hearing is Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom, this kid, 6'10", point guard out of New York City, Lamar Odom. Like, who the heck is Lamar Odom? Like, I want to see this. Because where I'm from, if you're 6'4", they're making you a center, right? you got to be a center. If you're the tallest guy on the team, no matter how tall you are, you be 6'3", 6'2", they're going to make you a center,
Throwing
right?
at 5.
So Lamar Odom's this guy. He's the first person that I face. The first game is Lamar Odom. I go out there and I put on a show, right? So the buzz is going around this camp. Who's this kid out of Auburndale, Florida? Tracy McGrady. Next guy, top 5 player in the country at this time, high school basketball. Play him the second game. I put on a show, right? So every game that I'm playing, I'm standing out.
Yeah.
Right? Amongst all these guys that are ranked around the country in high school basketball. So I make the all-star team at this camp. And I have one of the most legendary dunks at this camp. So I'm coming down, 7-footer. He's running down the middle of the court, trailing me, and I'm on the left side.
I already feel bad for him.
You should. So I'm coming down on the left side, and he's going down the middle. And already in my mind, I'm about to do a windmill. So I go up, and I get into my windmill, and he hits me in the chest. It's chest-to-chest windmill right on him. Everybody in the stands goes crazy. People running on the court. They had to stop the game. Like, it was bananas, right? So I leave that camp. I'm the #1 player in the nation.
Gosh.
Now let's back up. Before I get to this camp, nobody knows who I am.
Yeah.
Right? I'm unknown.
175.
175. I leave that camp, the #1 player in the nation. The nation.
You ever
Not
think you
Florida, the nation. I'm the #1 player.
I want that 175 jersey somewhere in this hall next month. That's what I want.
So I go through my high school career. Now I'm an NBA draft prospect, and I remember the day my high school coach calls me into his office, and there was a lot of buzz about me being a lottery pick in the 1997 draft. But me, I wanted to go to Kentucky. That's where I was going to go to school. I wanted to be a Wildcat. And he's sitting me on the floor. He was like, "You going to the NBA?" I was like, nah, I'm going to Kentucky.
Yeah.
He's like, "Joker, you want to go to Kentucky versus play against the best player in the NBA in the world?" I was like, "Man, I always wanted to be a Wildcat." He was like, "All right, well, what if I told you this? Adidas has a $12 million contract ready for you." I said, "What?" He said, "Adidas is offering you $12 million over 6 years." I said, "I can always go back to Kentucky, well, you know. Let's make this jump to the NBA."
It's remarkable too, because that era of sneaker contracts, y'all were just revolutionary in the way that, you know, it wasn't just Nike, it was Adidas, it was, you know, I mean, you can name them all. British Knight even dabbled for a bit, right?
Yeah.
And
Pumas.
so Pumas, exactly.
Yeah.
And so take us to draft night, because that night, again, the 1997 NBA draft, you will be the first member in Springfield, Massachusetts, in the Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, they're saving a spot for that Duncan fella. Yeah. But talk to me about draft night, waiting until #9. I remember the night vividly, and my name wasn't being called.
Well, I was anxious. I was really didn't know what to expect, because I went and visited about 20 teams, worked out for about 10, 15 teams, and I go to Toronto. Isaiah Thomas is the president at that time. And I had a meeting with him, and he told me, he was like, "If you're available at #9, we're gonna take you." Now, I didn't believe him.
Right.
You know, but we get to draft, man, and I'm sitting there with Tim Duncan and Chauncey Billups and, you know, these guys, Ron Mercer, these guys that I watched on TV. I'm in the green room with these guys, and I'm just sitting there a nervous wreck. You know, I knew Tim Duncan was gonna go first. Knew like Keith Van Horn, Chauncey Billups, some of those guys were going to go before me. And I'm just sitting there. I actually thought I was going to go to Golden State at number 8.
Did you?
Yes, I did. They took Adona Foyle. So I'm sitting there like, okay, well, here we go, Zeke. You say you're going to take me number 9. You can go ahead and get ready. And sure enough, man, to hear my name called, by David Stern was just, it was the most gratifying feeling, just overwhelmed with joy. And, to see my mom and my grandmother there, it was great.
Yeah, and just the beginning of the journey, really. And so the remarkable thing is you get to Toronto, and people often forget, you and I were joking in the wings over there, that we see the kids here, and we forget that we're of a certain age now.
I was, don't mean to interrupt, but I was telling him over there, I would say, I got to thank a lot of you parents in here, because I see some of these kids with my jersey on, and they probably wasn't even born when I was averaging 30 points. So to the parents, with instilling, the greatness of my career into these guys, I appreciate you guys. I really do, because they probably don't know who I am or what I really accomplished, what I did. It all came from you guys, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
So you get to Toronto. You're still a teenager. What is life like for a teenager basically living on your own with a bunch of grown men?
Well, it's not just living on your own. I was living in Toronto, Canada.
True.
You're talking about a kid from Florida, and I go to Toronto. I had no clue about the currency, the language, nothing. Like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know the legal age up there was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I still wasn't legal. I was 18. But anyway, so I get there, and it's a fairly new team. Mm-hmm. I think the existence for the Raptors at that time had been 3 years. Damon Stoudemire, Marcus Camby, and it was a relatively young squad. But what made it tough for me is that I had an old school coach. My rookie season, the first half of that was miserable, right? I mean, I can do some great things, but to him, it wasn't great. It wasn't good. It was, you need more. You need to do this. You're not doing this. It was a lot of putting me down instead of building me up. It was a lot of putting me down, and I got frustrated. I recall we playing Orlando Magic. I'm super excited because I'm playing against my idol, Penny Hardaway. 18 years old. Like, I recall that I'm 17 years old. I'm fresh off of watching Penny, watching him play against the Miami Heat in the playoffs, dropping 42 back-to-back against Miami Heat in the playoffs. After that playoff game, I go to Penny's house, I chill with him, I'm hanging with him. Like, this is the greatest day of my life, right? I'm with my guy. So when I'm struggling through my rookie season, I call Penny, I talk to him. We play him, I'm excited. I get a steal in this game. Now, I'm trying to show out.
Yeah.
Right? I'm playing against my idol. I get a steal, I go down, I do a windmill. I get pulled out of the game for showing out. He pulls me out of the game, I didn't play no more. He was like, when you come here, you got to try to fit in. And I'm looking like, try to fit in? Nah, man.
Yeah.
I was born to stand out.
You drafted Tracy McGrady.
I was born to stand out.
Yeah.
I'm not here to fit in,
Yeah.
right? That's not what I'm here to do. So I think Zeke recognized that he wasn't the coach for me, right? Because there was no structure. There was no, son, if you play great defense, I'll give you this amount of minutes. If you put this work in, I'll give you this. Like, it was none of that. So we had to get rid of him the first half of the season. We fired him All-Star Weekend, and second half, Butch Carter took over, who's wide receiver. Chris Carter, that was his brother. And he gave me structure. He gave me something that I had to look forward to, and I excelled my rookie year.
I remember that moment where you were finally allowed to be Tracy McGrady, and how for the rest of the NBA, that was the moment where it was never the same again. And then, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I got to tell this story. The funniest thing is, I'd never driven in snow before, right? So, man, I recall some days I'm driving in the snow, man, and I'm sliding all over the roads, right? So I live down the street from a little convenience store where I go and get my little groceries and stuff, to keep in my house for snacks and stuff. So my wife, which is my girlfriend at the time, I could look out my window and see her, because I used to send her down to the store, and I have her walk. It's below zero outside. Funniest thing is just watching her walk to and from the store, man, freezing her butt off with these grocery bags. It's the funniest thing. Because we haven't been in that type of weather.
No, Toronto might be whatever the opposite is of Orlando. I think that's Toronto.
Yeah, it's brutal. And I lived on the lake, too. It's brutal.
Now, you, 1 year later, the Raptors created one of the most iconic and electric and ferocious high-flying duos the NBA has ever seen when Vince Carter, your cousin, was drafted as well. Can you talk to us about, first of all, for the kids who haven't seen those highlights, please YouTube Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, and have some fun. Get your popcorn ready and get ready.
No, just YouTube Vince Carter.
And talk to me about the way that Vince's arrival helped you develop as a man, as a player, as a person.
Well, it was sort of like, I don't know if you guys seen the 30 for 30 on Penny and Shaq.
Yeah.
When Shaq wanted the Magic to draft Penny, but instead they drafted Chris Webber, and he was ticked, right? He didn't know what was going on, and they ended up making that trade. But it's actually the same thing that happened to me, because I had some influence on, who I wanted them to draft. Mm-hmm. And of course, I wanted them to draft my cousin. I just felt like he had he was the most talented, the most upside, and I thought that'd be a great tandem to partner up with. So they drafted, I think, Antoine Jameson. And I'm mad at the house, like, no, this is not, what we talked about. Ended up making a trade, getting Vince, and I tell you, man, it was probably one of the best things that happened to me, because he flourished so quickly and became, a fan favorite throughout, the NBA, the NBA rim, because of his highlight dunks. And to sit back as a 19-year-old and watch somebody how they handle being in the stardom, in the limelight, and how they handle that was just a tutorial for me when I got my opportunity. But it was great. I mean, some of that stuff that y'all see on YouTube, if you watch Vince Carter play, I was seeing that every day. It was in practice, and it was so easy to play with him because I always wanted to be a playmaker. So I could just come down the court. I don't even have to look where I'm throwing the ball, because he's so athletic, he's so creative, and can go get the ball from anywhere. Phenomenal talent, man. And for those 2 years that we played together, it was awesome to witness greatness.
And now, when you get to Orlando, talk about a homecoming. That was when your stint in Orlando really coincided as well with your emergence as an MVP candidate, your emergence as a leading scorer. I'm wondering how much of that was your natural development as a player, because that was 4 years after you were in the draft. So that was, physically, you were now the same age you would have been had you gone into college for 4 years. But how much of it was also just Tracy McGrady feeling comfortable with who you were at home?
Well, I think it was me just maturing as a player, as a person, with the work ethic, the way I approach the game, my mental. And I'm about to probably answer a question that a lot of people in this room will like to know, is what separates the elite players from somebody that's just good or average? Like, how do you get to elite status? How do you get here? Right? How do those players become so great? Well, my theory on that is, if you take the guys, you take myself, that has reached elite status and never played a game of basketball before, never played it. and you take somebody that plays the game every single day, they practice it, hours, tireless. You take them, and then you put me out there with those guys and we play, right? I've never played basketball before, but I'm able to hold my own with the guys that has been playing the game every day and working on their game every day because they already peaked out. So if they peaked out already, and I haven't played a day in my life and you put me out there, I'm able to hold my own, then I have so much growth to go and surpass them. And what that is just God-given talent. Yeah. And we all have it, we all have it, a talent that, God blessed us with. And that's just what I have. I had God-given talent. So I just elevated it, right? I was blessed with it, it put me out there, and that's what I do. I mean, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, or football, I was blessed with that talent. And I think when you work extremely hard, exhaust every, aspect of the game, then you excel and become that.
Yeah. And only so few have done that. Yeah. I love that. And I do have a baseball question. It's coming, don't you worry. Okay. I love me some baseball, some Tracy McGrady baseball questions. So then you eventually end up in Houston. In about one more question, by the way, you are going to get a chance to volunteer yourself to ask a Hall of Famer of the class of 2017, Tracy McGrady, a question. So now's the time to start churning. What have I left out that you want to ask Tracy McGrady? We'll get 3 questions from some kids in the audience. You end up in Houston playing with Yao Ming. Now, it really strikes me that one of the hallmarks of your career, Tracy, is that you used basketball, your God-given talent, your excellence, your drive, to see the world, to see parts of the country, to see places of the continent, Toronto, that you might not have seen. So what about your time in Houston stands out?
I can recall being with the Orlando Magic, and I was one of the first guys to tour China in terms of building a brand over there with Adidas. I was going over there since 1999. Now everybody is doing it. But I had the #1 selling jersey as an Orlando Magic player, in China. And then when I got to Houston, being alongside of this giant, this monumental guy, Yao Ming, elevated it to a status that I'd never thought that I would be in my career. People that do my marketing told me the other day, my Q rating in China is higher than the president's. That's all because of Yao. He elevated that. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. But being around him, man, and seeing the weight that he has to carry, I have a great fan base, huge fan base, but this guy has a whole continent that he has to carry. And the way he handles that, it was just great to see somebody at 7'5" move the way he moves. Left hand, right hand, one of the best jump shooters that we had on our team, the best foul shooter that we had on our team. I mean, Yao was tremendous. It was a pleasure to play with Yao Ming.
That was the stop in your career that I wish lasted longer, you and Yao together. Yeah. We never really got to see what that could have been.
Right.
So after basketball's over, now's a good time. If you have a question for Tracy McGrady, put your hand in the air. One of the great Hoop Hall staffers will choose 3 lucky fans to ask a question. After basketball was over, because you're a competitor and because you're an athlete and because no one can ever tell Tracy McGrady that competition will stop, you pitched professionally with the Sugar Land Skaters. Yeah. And I'm curious, Tracy, because I will compete anywhere. Unfortunately, they don't let me because I'm not good at it. You got a chance to pitch in an all-star game. You got to pitch professionally. Yeah. Can you talk about that experience? Maybe how much of it was bucket listy and how much of it was really that Tracy McGrady wanted to strike out the side in a professional baseball game?
Well, baseball is my favorite sport. I started baseball at the age of 5, and the only reason that I stopped playing baseball is because the high school that I transferred for my senior year didn't have a baseball team. That was the only reason that I stopped playing baseball. But it was my first love. Still love baseball, and my whole basketball career, I was trying to figure out a way to play baseball. I wanted to do it before, I was too old and not able to do it. And it was just perfect timing, man. It was so convenient that the Sugar Land Skeeters I live in Sugar Land, and they're 10 minutes from my house. And I just wanted to give it a shot. I went out there, tried out, and they were impressed. For somebody that hasn't played baseball in over 16, 17 years, I was able to go out there and make an impact. And, it was fun. I'm glad I got to achieve that.
One last question for you, Tracy, before we turn it over to the hard questions, the 3 over there. In 42 days, your face will be looking down on this court. For all of the times that you've dreamed about being in Springfield, can you talk about what it's like today, on this day in late July, 42 days before your enshrinement, to be speaking here on center court in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame?
Such a surreal feeling. Before coming to the NBA, I didn't know anything about the Hall of Fame. It wasn't like a goal of mine. I just love to play the game of basketball, and whatever achievements, I got after that, I obviously would be thrilled. But this right here this is the ultimate. What can I say, man? The Hall, really, from my story, from where I came from, unknown to being enshrined in the Hall of Fame in September. I mean, really, it doesn't get no better than that. A lot of people, because of social media, and give a lot of people, voices these days. And the first day they screaming, well, no rings, no rings. Well, you got to have a good team, a great team and some luck to get a ring, right? Unfortunately, I wasn't blessed with that. But I tell them, I go back at them with this. Anybody can win a championship, but everybody can't get in the Hall of Fame. Whew. And that's real talk.
That's a mic drop.
That's
All right, let's get to the hard questions. Come on over. The first question we'll take. I only have 2 requests. One is that you let me hold the microphone.
He's got the swag. Look how
He does. Look at that. Look at that. You let me hold the mic, and then you introduce yourself to Mr. McGrady before you ask your question.
Hi, I'm Riley.
What's up,
I'm
Riley?
from Attleboro. And I got a question. You think you're better than Jordan?
No, man.
All right.
Listen, Ryan?
Riley.
Listen, brother. There's a lot of things that I won't admit and will admit, but no. He's the greatest. He is the GOAT. He's the GOAT.
All right. Bye.
Great question, Riley. They just walk up firing.
Oh,
How are you, sir?
How you doing? Hi, Tracy. My name is Mark. It's a pleasure to meet you. You and Penny Hardaway were known to have the talent, too much talent for your age, right? Being in this league right now, how do you think you would fare in this league the way it's playing right now?
In this league right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I average 35 easy in this league. Easy. You can't touch nobody in this league right now, so the offensive guy has an advantage.
Yeah, I was telling my friend Thomas, too, that even Allen Iverson could easily average 25 in this league right now.
Yeah. This league is easy nowadays because they want all the scoring.
But do you think it's fun to watch as it is back then the way it used to?
I think it's fun to watch. I would love to play in this league because of the numbers that I know I could put up. But the other stuff that comes with everybody, all these guys teaming up, that's not fun.
Okay, but do you think it's corrupting the kids in a way that only to shoot threes and not work hard on the other aspect of the games?
Well, I think the game, it evolves. I mean, it goes from, it changes in different eras. I played in a hand-checking era, a more physical era, more dominant centers. Now, these guys can do it all. They could dribble, they could pass, they could shoot. I'm talking about the centers as well. So that's where the game is.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Tracy McGrady 2017. That'd be unfair.
I can't give you 5 games right now. What's up, man?
Hey, oof, you're Tracy McGrady.
What's up, buddy?
Is your cousin really Vince Carter? And how did it feel when you dunked on Sean Bradley?
Ooh, that's a good question, boy. It's a good question. Yes, my cousin is really Vince Carter. And it felt good to dunk on Sean Bradley at the time. It was in the playoffs, and I have no mercy when I'm in the playoffs. And I think he's enjoying retirement, today, because after that, he retired.
Even though Vince Carter still plays basketball and he goes around the world, do you still get to see him?
Yes, I was at his house 2 weeks ago, working out.
Oh.
I'll tell him you said hello. All right.
That was a great question. Oh, here we go. Let's close. Here, bring in the closer. Here we go.
What made you want to start?
Basketball? That is a good question. Let me tell you how I actually started basketball, because baseball was my love, right? And I have a big family, and I used to go to the park all the time with my cousins when they played basketball, and I never wanted to play because I was always baseball, football, no basketball for me. So I go to the park with these guys who are older than I am, my cousins, and they always used to beat me up because they wanted me to play, because one of the guys get tired and they needed an extra guy. I didn't want to play. So after years of being picked on by my cousins, I finally get out there and start playing, and I actually started loving the game, started dominating the game, and they hated me for that. So I got joy out of kicking my cousin's butt on the basketball court.
Thank you very much. Those were some excellent questions. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please give a Springfield, Massachusetts 60 Days of Summer thank you to Hall of Famer
Thank you, guys. I appreciate
Tracy
it.
McGrady.
Thank you. Appreciate it.